Welcome everybody. I'm going to do, this is going to be a quick tutorial. Well, I'm going to call it quick. It's just going to go over some of the basics of setting up a pattern that you can bring in your artwork that is designed for tumblers. This here is just one that I'm currently working on. And so what we want to do is we're going to open up a new file. And yeah, excuse me, my sinuses are bothering me. We're going to open up a new file that will be the base for our the basis. Let me close this out. This Photoshop will be the basis for the pattern, and I'm going to show you some of the tools as I go along. Now, the first thing that pops up here is going to be a the new document layout. Now, just by doing it, I know that the size of the pattern is going to be 4 by 8. Okay, so we're just going to skip all this recent saved and all this, and we're just going to go over here and highlight where it says width, and we're going to put 8 inches. Now you can use millimeters, centimeters, pixels, whatever you want. I choose to use inches. Now the height of this pattern is going to be 4 inches, and I want it in the landscape, and I only want one artboard. So in this one, because it's just a single artboard, you can't, excuse me, you can come in here and do 2 artboards if you're doing the front and the back. But for this tutorial, we're just going to be using the one. So we've 4 inches wide, 8 inches wide, 4 inches high, landscape, one artboard. This I'm not worried about. I don't use any of that. And then just click on create. And what'll generate is a new artboard. Now you can also go into, now you can see there's no way to tell how big this artboard is, so you want to do Control R, and that'll bring up your measurements. Now my measurements are in inches, so now I can see there's 8 and there's 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this first layer, and I'm going to call it guides. Okay, now so you just type in the word guides, tab to the color, and just use, you can either open this box and just pick you a color. I have a tendency to use magenta, and also if the name of the color begins with a letter, let's say L, I can just click on the L button on the keyboard and it'll scroll through all the reds. But I particularly like to use a magenta, so do that. You leave all this alone and click OK. Okay. Now, being that I have the rulers up, the first 2 things I want is I want 2 guides. I want 1 vertical. And it doesn't matter where you place it, because you can come up here and it'll give you the coordinates of where it's at. Okay, so I want this one to be right in the center of the left to right, or X and Y. So I type in 4 inches, hit enter, you see it jumped over. Okay, now I am going to, if you wanted to be technical, you could come and put this at 0, and the center of that guide is at 0. Now I'm going to do a horizontal guide, and I'm just going to place it anywhere. Now I want this to, we know that it's 4 inches tall, so I want it to be 2. And I'm going to backspace 1 or tab back 1 and change this again to 0. Well, actually, I'm going to change it to 4 because the center would be 4, and then that would be so. And I'm going to go back to this guide and look. Oops. If you want to select your guides after you do it, make sure your selection, you have your selection tool highlighted. And now you can select that, and you can see the measurements of where this is. It's 4 inches in the X direction, and it's at 0, which it should be at 2 in the Y. Okay. Now, before you get too far along, you want to save this. So go up to File, Save, and the first time it's going to ask you to do a Save As. Now, up in your, I do this in my desktop. I actually make a file in my desktop that's called, actually, if you go to my desktop, you can see I have a heading here, Adobe Illustrator files, and that's where I put all my stuff. Now we're going to scroll down because I've done a bunch of them. We're going to go and actually, let me search. I thought I had one already made up, so I'm just going to make one now. Well, no, let me do this right. I'm going to do this. Let me think about this for a second. Okay. I'm going to save this file. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to, in this space, I'm going to right click here and create a new subfolder. I'm going to call it new. My computer's a little bit slow. That didn't close out. Let me do this again. New folder. And I'm just gonna hit the caps button because I'm anal and that's what I like. I'm just gonna call it tutorials, and that's where I'm gonna keep the files, the hard files of the tutorials. Now what I want to do is I want to change this little icon, and that's just me being anal again. For some reason it's not letting me do that. Okay. And I just like my icons this way, and for some reason, here we go. And if you want to change, you go to Properties, Customize, choose File, and I know where my stuff's at, so it's under the desktop under Favicon. So Favicon, that's my folder icon. And then to do change icon again. You do have to do both of these, which is irrelevant to this tutorial. This is just what I do. Browse. There's Favicon again. Or there's my folder, and apply, and okay. Now there we go. Now I'm saving this. Want to open this up. Okay, so it's the last line, and I am going to call this 4. And when I say dash, I usually just mean underscore. 4-8 dash, and I'm just going to call it 1 artboard. I don't like caps on these. one artboard template. And I'm just going to save that. It's going to ask you to save in the options and all that. You just want to click OK. So now we have this saved, and it's called 481 one artboard template. Okay. And we're not done using the guides yet. So I want to put some more guides around here, and if you'll just follow along, you'll understand. I'm going to put a guide at the top, and I'm going to check it to make sure the coordinates are where they're supposed to be. But the most important one is the 0 on the Y, because that's the exact top of the artboard. I'm going to do another one that is directly at the bottom, and that one should be 4. I'm going to do another one to the left, that should be 0, and another one to the right, and the X should be 8. Okay, and just you want to get in a habit of randomly saving. Now, I'm going to jump to a different thing. It's just easier for me to do it at this point. I'm going to lock this, and you want to get in the habit of locking your layers when you're not using them, because you will find that you'll put lines or guides on the wrong layer. Because here's for an example. If I left that unlocked and I created a new layer and I call it, and the layer, this is meant to be registration marks. Okay, if you were by chance here and you went to draw something that you meant to be on the guide layer or in the guide folder, it's going to put it on the guides. And if you lose it later, you're going to have to come back, because if you did a select, deselect, you're not going to see it, but it's there. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that layer, close this back up, lock it, go to the registration marks. Now, the registration mark, you'll see that a new folder has all these colors. So you really don't have to do a lot here. But what you want to do is on the registration marks, you want to click on the red. I like the stroke width to be a 0.5. Click on the rectangle, and I'll hover over this. You'll see that it snaps to that intersection. And when it snaps to that intersection, click and hold your left mouse button down, drag it to the other corner until the intersect pops up again, and let go. Now we have a registration mark, and we'll do a select none or deselect. Another way you can do that is switch to your selection tool, and if that was highlighted, you can just click in your gray area and leave it at that. Okay, now we're going to do something that may seem odd. I am going to switch down here to the artboard tool, and you can see this little artboard button right there, and that's just going to highlight the artboard. Now what I'm going to do is 8 inches wide and 4 inches high. So I'm going to back out of the inch where it says inch or IN, and I'm going to do plus 0.1. Same thing with the 4, plus 0.1. Now what that does, it does nothing to your drawing. It doesn't affect your drawing in any way, but it lets me see that edge. And another thing it doesn't do until I get ready to cut this vinyl, is when I import this into my vinyl cutter software, if I don't have this bigger, I can't see that line to line everything up, and it makes me curious to see, well, did I forget that line on the drawing? So then I have to go back. So it's just easier for me to do this. Now we're going to lock the registration, go back to the guides. Now, when we do the tumblers, or when I do the tumblers, my success a lot relies on registration marks. So I put registration marks on the top right here and on the bottom right here. Now, what I do there is I make a little V. So I'm going to go to this center guide mark, click on it, do an edit, copy, and edit, paste in place. Okay, now it put a copy of that guideline right on top of the other one. Now I want to go to the X, okay, and I'm going to get rid of the IN in inches, and I'm going to do a minus 0.06, and you'll see that there's my new. Now I can do an edit, paste in place, and do the same thing again, but this time I'm doing plus 0.06, and you can see that's popped up. Now, if I want to, I can unlock this, and I'm also going to turn off the visibility. So there is, well, actually I need to turn my visibility back on. I was being mistaken. Okay, so I'm going to unlock the registration mark. I'm going to highlight it, and you can see the anchor points where it is. Now, okay, let me get out of that for just a minute because I think I missed a spot. So what I'm going to do, close the register, lock the registration, unlock the guides. We're going to go to the top horizontal guide, and we're going to do an edit, copy, edit, paste in place. And then we're going to go to the Y coordinate, so back out of the IN and do plus 0.25, okay? Now, when you're working with this, you'll see that your ruler counts down. So I did a plus 0.25 there. I'm gonna go to the bottom guide and do an edit, copy, edit, paste in place. Now I'm gonna subtract 0.25 from the Y. Okay, now, what you want to do is you want to zoom in. Now, I'm not familiar with Mac, so all the things I'm telling you are going to work for the Windows. So if you're a Mac person, you know, I think the control is the same as the command or something like that. So I'm going to close the guides or lock the guides. I'm going to unlock the registration mark. Now I'm going to highlight this so it's active. You can see the little circle, and you can either unlock it like that, or you can go over here and click it, and it'll activate it also. But sometimes you can accidentally get a little dot if you're not perfectly on it. So highlighting it here is best at this point until you get where you have a lot of sub layers under that file. So we want to go to our curvature tool, and just to the left of this guide here, get on your path and double click. That'll make an anchor point. Do the same thing on the right side, double click, and then somewhere in between them, double click. Now what that has done is it created straight lines. If you didn't have that double click or that anchor point, it would be a curve. So you want that double clicked, and you can see the little dot in the center of the circle. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to take and we're going to get on, we're still going to be on the curvature tool. You want to get your little cursor. right over that dot, and we're going to drag it down here, and it should snap. Now you can adjust your snap settings, and we'll get into that later in your preferences. Right now, default settings should be good. Now we're going to do the same thing to this one. And you can see where it said intersect. Okay, you can see where that one said intersect. Now you see how I had that magenta. That's one thing I haven't been able to figure out is how to change the, because when you're this, you see where it popped up and said path, to change that color where it's more visible. Now I'm going to scroll this down, which you can either scroll down or zoom out, zoom back in. We're going to do the same thing with the bottom. Double click to the left, double click to the right, double click in the center, and then we'll drag to those 3 points. Now, and there's 2, and there's 3. And you'll get, if you're not sure if you're snapping to it or in the right spot, you'll get the feel of it after using it several times. So I'm just going to lock that layer, and I'm going to go ahead and save it and look at it. Okay, that's pretty much all I need to actually, if I wanted to make a template. Okay, this right here is really what you need. Okay. Now, because when you come in here, and let me do for example, this is a 1/4 inch, and it's 0.12 wide, so it's just under 1/8 of an inch wide. As long as these are saved, and you want to save this as a template, that way, instead of opening a new file, having to redraw registration marks, you know, you've got it already done. It's in another folder, and you can start right here, because what will happen is if you were just putting initials on here, you're going to be set up in different heights. You're going to, you know, you may be able to go a little bit further, closer to this. Another safe thing to do is, if you wanted to, take your guides and take this guide right here and do an edit, copy, edit, paste in place, and then move that one down. Make sure you're in the Y. Move it down 3/16 of an inch, which would be plus 0.187. And this will also give you a margin. And then we'll go ahead and do this one from the bottom too, just for this. We'll do it. Edit, copy, edit, paste in place, go to your Y coordinate, go minus 0.187. Okay, we're going to lock our guides again. Now, when I'm ready to bring in an image into my template, I will make another layer. Now, this layer will be called original image. Now, I like my original image file to be right at the bottom. There are times where you have to move it around in this column of the files. So I'm going to leave that highlighted. I'm going to go to this other drawing that I have open, which is this one. Now you can see I've got a lot of stuff locked. And well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep them locked. I'm going to unlock the original image, highlight it. No, that won't work because I've got this this artboard that came with the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the fish main outline, which I've already been drawing on this. So we're going to do edit, and we're going to do a copy, and then we're going to go over here. Now, I don't care where it goes right now, okay? So I'm just going to do an edit paste and let it go where it is. Now, you can see it's small, so I have to scale this up. So what I'm going to do is if I just use this tool right here, which is part of the selection tool, and you get that little diagonal. See, I can make it grow tall, make it grow long, but I don't want that. I want it to be symmetrical. So I'm going to hold down the shift key while I'm there, and you can see it grows proportionally. And I'm going to have to move it. You may have to move it around like that a little bit just to get it as big as you want. Now, you can remember these guides that I put up there. So what I can do is I can drag it to this little point, hits that guideline, and if I need to move the bottom a little more, I can do that. Now I can move it over this way. Now you can see that I'm pretty good in with the margins and the registration marks, because we deselect. I need to change that. Sorry about that. And see, I put that on the original image layer. I'm going to bring this back up to about a 1 so y'all can see it, and then I'll do a deselect. Now you can see that drawing. I'm pretty safe because actually I'm nowhere near here with anything, but this area right here gets close to it, and this area right here gets close to it. I don't really want to enlarge this anymore because this area here is past that. So I know that that's going to be less than a 1/4 inch away from my the edge of my tumbler, because this part of the template will be at the top of the tumbler. So, and what I'm going to do here, that'll give you an idea. And you can also, if you're doing, for instance, a 2 artboard template, which you'd have one for the front part of the tumbler, one for the back, you need to measure, and you need to put another guide here somewhere. You know, you want to move one to the left or to the right, and one over here to the left, because when you're laying this vinyl on the tumbler for your pattern, they will overlap, and you want to make sure that one drawing doesn't overlap the other. So, well, right now I'm just going to back out of this stuff that I just did. Well, it's going to be easier just to come here, highlight those. Now I can highlight, you can only highlight one at a time, but if you hold the shift key down, you can get multiple, well, not multiples, but in the same area. If you want to do many separate ones, you're going to hold the Control T. See, I can highlight that one, skip one, highlight that one, skip one, highlight that. Well, that one don't highlight because it's a sub file. So I'm just going to get rid of these two, trash them. I like to keep things locked when I'm done with the file, because if I open it, I accidentally hit a key, something falls on it, I'm safe. So I'm going to save this. Everything's locked. This is going to be, this will be a template for you. So next time, let's just close that out. Next time you're getting ready to do a tumbler, you want to do File, Open. You're going to go to wherever you keep your files. So Adobe Illustrator files. I scroll down to where it says Tutorials, because that's where I'm putting these. I have my own template folders here, which you can see I have several, but we'll go over that into another tutorial. So click on Tutorials. It's a 4x8 single artboard, so it says one artboard template. Click on that, hit it, and it just saves you all the time of redrawing one. And so that's the purpose of this tutorial, is to show you how. Now, what I'm going to do, probably, I'm going to show you an easy way on the next tutorial to how to make a 2 artboard tutorial, and do it basically the same way. But I will show that one. That'll probably be the next video. And I've got a couple more tutorials coming up to show you how to make well, to give you an example, let me show you. I'm going to go to a file. Let me go to one of my templates. This is called a 2 artboard template for an Arctic 30 tumbler, upper and lower in Camotech, which is basically the same as I can't remember now, but I call it Camotech. And I did make this pattern myself, but this is a 2 artboard, and if you notice, you can see how the edges of this bevel in right here and here, and this is curved. It has an arc to it, both top and bottom, and the reason is the top of the Arctic tumblers are wider at the top than they are at the bottom. And this sets up, if you notice on an Arctic tumbler, it has, right in the middle, it has a little curve. And it's near impossible to get a piece of vinyl to fit that perfectly. So this is for the top section, and this is for the bottom section. I also have one for a 3 artboard. That does the top, the bottom, and a name. So, and this will be one of the tutorials that are coming up. And actually, but what I want to do is make some changes, because this one here wraps all the way around the tumbler and lines up perfectly. Actually, I have a video coming up that will show one of these. I just finished one of these the other day, and it'll be shown, on a video. So, but I do have to make some adjustments because this was the first time I used this template, and you can see these registration marks. I'm doing away with those on this tumbler. You can see how some of these other lines interfere, and I'll show you how I solve that problem. So that's coming up in another video. But for today, I'm going to leave this one as it is. This is a 1 artboard template, 4x8. And also, once I get the video uploaded, if you're a Patreon member, you will be able to download this from the Patreon site, and you will also, if you need it in a different format other than Illustrator format, please let me know, and I can get you one. So if it's available, because I can save this in a lot of formats, and it just depends on, I can do Illustrator, Adobe, Illustrator EPS, Illustrator template, SVG, and SVG compressed. Those are the options I have. So I can put it in those formats and you're good to go. So take care. Hope y'all have a good rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed the template, and don't forget to check out Baywatch Arms on Instagram, or I use 2 names. Baywatch Arms and Accessories is my primary business, and Baywatch Custom Powder Coating. But if you want to go to Patreon, it's patreon.com/Baywatch Arms. If you want to follow me on, I don't usually do Pinterest, but if you want to follow me on Instagram, You can follow me there. It's Instagram, baywatch.arms. You can see bits of videos, bits of tumblers, all that kind of good stuff. Facebook. Let's see, Facebook, you'll be under, it'll be under, come on. It'll be under Baywatch Custom Powder Coating. So, there we go, Baywatch. No, I'm sorry, Baywatch Custom Tumblers. But that's, and the computer's slow, so Baywatch Custom Tumblers. You'll see a lot of the same information there. When I post, when I do something on Instagram, it does automatically post to the custom tumblers also. So hope you guys have a great day, and we're going to call this one an end for this tutorial, and we hope to see you on the next one. And you guys take care. Bye.